I used to think helping people was the right thing to do, no matter what. I was raised to believe that kindness always comes back around, and that if someone was in need, it was my duty to show up. And for most of my life, that's exactly what I did. I opened my home, I opened my heart, I lent money I couldn't really spare. I watched children when my body was tired, listened to complaints when my mind was heavy, and gave advice when my own heart was breaking. I did all of it with a smile, because that's what I believed love looked like. But now, in the quiet seasons of my life, where the days are slower, the house is quieter, and the phone doesn't ring as often, I've had time to think. And I've come to realize that not everyone you help is worth helping. Some people don't want help. They want access. Some don't appreciate kindness. They expect it. And worst of all, some will take every last drop of your time, your peace, and your spirit, and never once look back to see what it cost you. It took me a long time to understand that protecting my peace wasn't selfish. That saying no didn't make me a bad person. It made me a person who'd learned the hard way. And if you're anything like me, someone who's spent a lifetime giving, maybe it's time you learned it too. Because peace, once lost, is hard to get back. And in our golden years, peace should be sacred. 1. The taker who never gives back. Her name was Lorraine. She wasn't family, but she may as well have been. She'd been around so long. We met back in the early 80s at church. She was loud, charming, and always had a story to tell. At first, I admired how bold she was. She seemed fearless in ways I never had the courage to be. And when she needed help, a ride here, a meal there, I didn't think twice. The first time she called me crying, it was about her electricity being shut off. I sent her the money. Then it was her car breaking down. Then her son getting arrested. Then needing a place to stay for just 2 weeks that turned into 4 months. I cooked for her, took her to doctor appointments, watched her grandchildren. She always said, "I don't know what I'd do without you," and it made me feel like I was doing something good. But here's what I didn't see back then. Lorraine only called when she needed something. When things were going well, she disappeared. When I had surgery and needed someone to bring me soup or just sit and talk, she was too busy. When my birthday came, not a card, not a call. But the moment life got hard on her end, that phone would ring. At first, I made excuses for her. I told myself, she's got so much going on. She means well. I wanted to believe that my kindness was making a difference. But the truth, Lorraine was a taker. She took my time, my resources, my emotional energy, and she gave nothing back. Not even gratitude after a while, just more asking. It wasn't just Lorraine. Either. As I started paying attention, I realized there were others like her in my life. People who saw me not as a friend or loved one, but as a resource, a convenience, someone they could lean on without ever offering to carry a bit of my weight in return. It's not easy to admit when you have been used, especially not when you offered yourself freely. And for us older folks, there's this deep-rooted belief that being helpful is our purpose, that it makes us valuable. But helping someone who only takes, that doesn't build value. It drains it. It empties you out until there's nothing left for yourself. I remember the last time Lorraine called. It was late, after 9 p.m. She was crying again and asking if she could crash at my place for just a week. But I was tired. My blood pressure had been acting up. I hadn't been sleeping well. And something inside me, something firm, quiet, and long overdue, told me to say no. She didn't take it well. Called me selfish. Said I'd changed. And maybe I had. Maybe I had finally started choosing myself. If you've got a Lorraine in your life, someone who always takes and never gives, I hope you know it's okay to stop answering the phone. It's okay to let them figure it out without you. You are not a doormat, and your heart is not a public utility. You are allowed to guard your time and your spirit, especially now, because some people, no matter how much you give, will always want more, and peace comes when you stop feeding what only drains you. 2. The manipulator who uses guilt. There's a kind of hurt that doesn't come from raised voices or slammed doors. It comes quiet. It comes wrapped in words that sound soft but land heavy. It comes from someone you care about looking you in the eye and saying, after all I've done for you, Pi, like your entire life has been a debt you haven't paid. My sister Diane was a master at this. We grew up close, not just in age, but in life. She was always the older one, the one who looked out for me, and I never forgot that. So when our mother passed and Diane needed help sorting out the estate, I was there. When she had back surgery, I took time off work to care for her. When her husband left, I was the one who stayed up all night on the phone holding her broken heart. But when my time came, when I lost my job and needed a little help with groceries or just someone to talk to, Diane became cold, distant. She'd sigh heavily, remind me how much she'd already done, and say things like, "You're not the only one with problems, you know." I started to feel ashamed for asking, like needing help made me weak, like I was being ungrateful. Diane never yelled. She didn't need to. Guilt was her tool, and she used it well. It wasn't just Diane, though. I started seeing it in others, too. The cousin who only called when she wanted to unload her drama, then reminded me, "You're all I've got left." The neighbor who said I was like family until I declined to drive her to the airport at 5 in the morning. And suddenly I was selfish. These people didn't want help. They wanted control. And guilt was how they kept it. The problem with guilt is that it's sneaky. It makes you question your own needs. It makes you think that caring for yourself is a betrayal of someone else, that saying no means you don't love them. But I've learned that guilt is not the same as love. And people who love you don't make you feel bad for having boundaries. It took me a long time to say it out loud, but I'll say it now. I don't owe anyone my peace, not for what they did for me in the past, not for blood ties, not for shared history. Helping someone out of love is one thing. Helping someone because you're afraid they'll make you feel guilty if you don't, that's not love. That's manipulation. I stopped letting guilt make my choices. The first time I told Diane, "I'm not able to help with that right now," I braced for the backlash. And sure enough, it came. The cold tone, the silence, the subtle digs, but I stood firm. And for the first time in years, I felt free. If someone in your life uses guilt to keep you giving, please hear me. You don't have to keep paying a debt that doesn't exist. Your value is not in what you do for others. You don't owe anyone the parts of yourself that you need to heal and feel whole. Say no without explanation. Say yes only when it feels right in your spirit. And when guilt knocks on your door, you don't have to answer. Sometimes peace begins with closing it. 3. The one who brings chaos wherever they go. Some people don't just walk into your life. They crash through it, dragging drama behind them. No matter how calm your world is, they find a way to stir it up. It doesn't matter how much you love them or how much you try to help. Their presence always brings tension, mess, and stress. For me, that was my nephew, Kevin. Every time he ran into trouble, lost a bus, broke up with a girlfriend, got evicted, he'd show up at my door with a suitcase and big promises. "Just a few nights," he'd say. I wanted to believe him. I remembered the little boy he used to be. But every visit was chaos. He was loud, messy, stayed out late, brought people over without asking. My home stopped feeling like mine. I stopped sleeping. I felt like a guest in my own quiet life. The hardest part was how he turned it on me when I tried to speak up. "You don't care about me. You're all I have." And I'd feel guilty, like maybe I was being too hard. But inside, I was drowning. The day I asked him to leave, I cried. But that night, I slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. And that's when it hit me. Love doesn't mean sacrificing your sanity. Some people don't want stability. They live in crisis. And if you let them, they'll pull you right into their storm. But you don't have to go. You're allowed to protect your space, to say, "Not this time." You can pray for their healing from a safe distance. Letting go of chaotic people isn't cruel. It's necessary. You fought hard for your peace. Don't hand it over to someone who doesn't know what to do with it. 4. The pretender who only comes around when they want something. You know the type. They disappear for months, sometimes years, then show up smiling like they never left. And they always need something, a little money, a place to stay, a favor, just this once. They act warm, like they care, but deep down you know, if you had nothing to offer, they wouldn't be there. For me, it was Darren, my son's old friend. He started dropping by after my husband passed, full of charm and, "Ma'am, you're looking well." At first I thought he just missed us, but over time I saw the pattern. He only came around when he needed help. Gas money, a couch, a hot meal. And when things were going fine for him, not a word. The day I said no was the day he stopped pretending. No more sweet talk, no checking in, just silence. It hurt. Not because I missed him, but because I finally saw him for what he was. Someone who used kindness like a key to get what he wanted. Some people don't come around for you. They come for what you can give. And when you stop giving, they disappear. As we get older, we crave connection. We want to be needed, remembered. But don't let that longing open your door to pretenders. Real love checks in even when it doesn't need anything. Real love stays when the giving stops. If someone only comes when they want something, they're not showing love. They're running a transaction. And you, my friend, are not for sale. Keep your heart open, but guard your peace. You have earned the right to be surrounded by people who truly care, not those who play nice when they're hungry, then vanish when they're full. Guard your peace like it's gold. If there's one thing I've learned with age, it's that peace is the most precious thing you own. Not your money, not your house, not the family name, but the quiet in your soul when you wake up in the morning. The ease in your chest when the phone doesn't ring with drama. The stillness in your home that feels like a warm blanket on a cool day. It took me decades to realize that I'm allowed to protect that peace, that it's okay to say no, that just because someone needs help doesn't mean I'm the one meant to give it, that just because they're family or go way back or once did me a kindness doesn't mean I owe them my joy. The truth is, not everyone deserves access to you, and that doesn't make you cold-hearted. It makes you wise. We only get so many days in this life, and when you've lived long enough, you start to see how fast they go. You realize that giving your time, your heart, your energy, that's not free. It costs something. And when it's given to the wrong people, it leaves you poorer than before. So let me tell you this, from one old soul to another, you have every right to choose peace, to draw lines, to rest. You have every right to be loved without strings, to be appreciated without guilt, and to say enough when someone's presence costs you more than it gives. You've carried others for so long. Now it's your turn to rest, to breathe easy, to live light. Guard your peace like it's gold, because it is, and you've already earned every bit of it.